Hi guys, it's time for another video. But I hope that you are all safe and healthy at home. But I also hope that you're using this time to study and to work and to do as much work as possible. Unfortunately, we cannot be together at this time, but our school, Al Manhal, has made it possible for us to continue to provide you with quality education. And this is what today's video is going to be about, more education. Particularly, we are looking at grammar, and we are going to continue to look at the different kinds of punctuation. We've already done a few of those, and I want us to continue with that this week. Um, there are three kinds of punctuation that we're going to look at today: the ellipsis, the dash, and the hyphen. Right off the bat, I want to tell you that while the dash and the hyphen look similar and they are used, especially in writing, they are used in a very similar way, they are completely different, and we're going to get into those differences um, in a short while. Um, so let's talk first about the ellipses. The ellipses, this here is the ellipsis, the three periods or the three full stops, right? It's called an ellipsis, right? So it's not dot, 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 even though that's how commonly and in colloquial language it's become to be used. But the proper name for these three periods is called the ellipsis. Right? Although sometimes it can be used with three asterisks. Again, in common language, you would say 3 stars, but it's not 3 stars, it's asterisks, right? Each one is an asterisk, and 3 of them is asterisks in the plural, right? The ellipsis is used to indicate an omission. What that means is that when you leave something out, when you omit something, it means to leave out, right? So I want you to think of this picture here. A ellipsis Z, right? So A to Z, in other words, is what this picture represents. So you leave out the other 24 letters of the alphabet, and you just put in A, your ellipsis, and a Z, and everybody will know, and anyone who reads it rather will know that what you're talking about is the other 24 letters of the alphabet, but you've represented them there without actually writing them out. And that's what we mean there by the ellipsis is used to omit, especially letters or words, right? The next point is that ellipsis is usually used within a quotation to jump from one phrase to another. So imagine, for example, you have a huge chapter that you want to write into your essay, but from that chapter, you only need about 3 or 4 sentences, right? You don't need all 15 or 16 sentences in that one chapter. So you would select the sentences that you would need, and for the rest of the words and the rest of the majority of that chapter that you don't use, you would represent that with the 3 dots. So you'd have your sentence, your 3 dots, and then your next sentence and your 3 dots, and you would put that together as one quotation, right? Let's look at that in these example sentences. The first one is with an omission, right? Again, this is how it's used here in omission, right? So she began to count 1, 2, 3, 4 until she got to 10. Then we went to find him, right? So she began to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we know she continued all the way to 10, and then 10 they went to look for the person. This is taken out of the game hide and go seek, where one person goes to hide, and then you count to 10, and then you close your eyes for 10 seconds, then you open them, and then you go and try to see if you can find where that person is hiding. In quotations, it would say, let's look at the quotation here. When Newton started and stated, an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. There you have your three ellipses again, which indicates that Newton continued to speak, but the writer of this essay has got all the information that they need from Newton, but then their thought, the writer's thought continues. He developed the law of motion, right? So we're taking just a small part of what Newton said in his book or in his theory and adapted it within the quotations to the writer's own thinking, right? To express the writer's own ideas, but leaving out unnecessary bits of information. And that's the ellipsis and how you use it. This point here just tells us that while in writing, it's what I mentioned before when we get to the dash and the hyphen. While in writing, they may look the same and we may use them the same. They are actually very, very different. So I have two pictures, this one and then this one here. And they both represent the kinds of dashes and the hyphen. So what you'll see is the hyphen is actually the smallest one, right? The second, which is twice as big as the hyphen, is the dash, the N dash, and then there's the M dash, which is 3 times bigger than the hyphen. So that's the original, that's twice as big, and that's 3 times as big as the original, and that's the M dash. The real issue with this is that when you are writing it, it becomes very difficult for the person who's reading to tell, you know, if the one is twice as big as the other one or the other one is 3 times as big as the original. It gets very complicated. So what we all end up doing is using just one, just the dash or the hyphen. And based on how you use your sentences and what you say in the sentence, it will, you know, the reader will have to decide, is it a dash or is it a hyphen? But let's look in detail the difference between the dash and the hyphen. A dash is used to separate words into statements, right? There are two kinds of dashes. There's the end dash, which is the second one there. And I represented it here with 2 hyphens to show that it is in fact twice as long as the hyphen. And that's the N dash, and then where's the M dash? The M dash is 3 times as long as the hyphen, right? And I've represented it here, make that bold, with 3 hyphens to indicate that it is indeed 3 times longer, and I'll add that here as well for consistency. So the N dash, twice as long as the hyphen, the N dash is a symbol that is used in writing or printing to indicate range, connection, or differentiations, right? Now, if that definition doesn't help you, I want you to look at the example sentences, right? Look at the first one. It says the book talks about Saudi history from 1880 to 1945. Now, the dash here, or yes, the N dash here, which is twice as big as the hyphen, indicates the passing of time, right? It indicates the passing of time from 1880 to 1940, right? And here, the train goes from Princeton to New York. Here, the dash represents the passing of distance, right? So again, if you look at the definition, the N dash is a symbol that is used in writing or to indicate a range, connections, or differentiations, right? So again, range, from one time to another time, from one area to another area, from one distance to another distance, right? Connections, because they're talking about a particular time or a particular journey or a particular difference, and the difference between that, right? So we're talking about years in difference here, and we're talking about kilometers in differentiations. The M dash, which is longer than the dash, right? So it's slightly longer than the N dash, 3 times longer than the hyphen, can be used in place of comma, parenthesis, or colon. We're going to talk about the parenthesis and the bracket because they look about the same the next time we talk about punctuations. Colons, we've talked about. Commas, we've already discussed. So to enhance readability or emphasize the conclusion of a sentence, right? This word here, emphasize. This word immediately implies that you might see one of those, an exclamation point, right? To make for emphasis. So I put that here deliberately to indicate that. So for example, she gave him her answer, no. And that no is said with such great emphasis that you gotta put an exclamation mark there, right? So again, the M dash has taken over the comma and is taken over the colon, and it does also take the place of parenthesis, but we'll talk about parenthesis in another time. For now, I want us just to focus on the M dash. The second sentence, he saw the danger coming and screamed, stop, right? Screamed indicates shouting, which is always expressed with the exclamation mark. I used 2 pictures here, right? This one seems to imply, and I think it's a great example because you have your hyphen, and then you have your N dash, which is longer than the hyphen, right? Sort of the width of a capital N, and because a capital M is also wider than the N, so the M dash, N dash will be, the M dash will be slightly longer than the N dash, right? I hope this picture is very helpful in understanding this. Let's look at the hyphen and how that is used, right? Again, all 3 of these are used for completely different functions, but when we use them in actual writing, physical writing with your hands, they may seem to be even the same or similar, right? So it will be up to the reader to know what the differences are and if it's used correctly. But a hyphen is used to join 2 or more words together to make a compound term. In other words, it's used to put 2 words together to make a new word, right? And is not separated by space, right? So the words will be together, and 2 words put together to make a brand new word and a new meaning, right? Let's look at the example sentence. Ahmed has a part-time job as a gym instructor, right? Part is one word, time is another word. You bring them together, they make the word part-time, and that's a new word with a brand new meaning. The students had back-to-back classes with no break. That means the students were in class, one class after the other, after the other, after the other, with no break. Again, the word back, two words that together mean something completely different, but you put them together back to back, and it makes a new word with a brand new meaning. And that is the power of the hyphen there. And Ibrahim is a very well-known football player, right? Well and known, together they mean something completely different. Separate, they mean something completely different. But if you bring them together, they make well-known, or it means very popular, right? A very well-known football player. And again, there, I thought it was very important, instead of using a picture of a gym instructor or something else, to illustrate the difference of the hyphen, the N dash, and the M dash, right? Again, when you use them in writing, you'll just draw one dash or one hyphen, and it will be up to the reader to decipher what the meaning is there. I hope this video has been very helpful. This is the end of the second video for the week. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you and have a nice day.